You ever had a boss who smiled to your face and stabbed you in the back the moment you turned around? Yeah, that was my life for nearly 6 months. But when she finally fired me thinking she'd humiliated me for good, I made sure her entire career went up in smoke. And I walked away with a year's salary for doing absolutely nothing. And the best part? She never even saw it coming. If you've ever dreamed of serving justice to someone who thought they could walk all over you, hit that like button, subscribe, and sit back. Because this one right here, is one of the most satisfying revenge tales you'll hear today. This all happened back in the early 2010s, before video content creation exploded like it has today. Back then, YouTube was still finding its footing, and video editing tools were nothing like the smooth, plug-and-play setups we have now. I had just landed a job at a university that wanted to start building its online presence through YouTube videos on highlighting their department's student life and culture. It wasn't glamorous, but for me, it was a chance to get real industry experience. The pay was modest, let's say, about $2,200 a month. Not much, but I figured I could make it work. After all, this was my foot in the door. And I genuinely loved what I did, creating stories through film. But what I didn't realize then was that I had just walked into a ticking time bomb. My direct manager, let's call her Linda, seemed decent at first. She was upbeat, overly positive, and the kind of person who used words like team synergy way too often. You know the type. Smiles in every meeting, coffee mug that says boss lady, the whole corporate girl boss vibe. On my second day, Linda called me into her office. She handed me a printed document and said cheerfully, "Here's your KPI, your performance indicator for the year." It said 85 videos, each between 3 and 10 minutes long. In 52 weeks, I blinked. 85 videos? I repeated. She smiled like it was totally normal. That's right. We believe in aiming high here. To put that into perspective, each video required writing scripts, finding people to appear on camera, filming, editing, and adding music, all by myself. Their equipment was ancient. The cameras couldn't even record in 1080p without crashing. The editing computer, I'm not exaggerating, it sounded like a jet engine every time. I opened Adobe Premiere, so I told her politely, "Ma'am, with all due respect, that's not really a one-person workload." Linda just gave me that same polished corporate smile and said, "Oh, I totally get it. Just do your best to focus on quality over quantity. We'll look at the results together later." I took her word for it. Big mistake. The first few weeks went smoothly. I worked late, poured my energy into every video, made sure the university looked professional and exciting online. Students started recognizing me with a camera around campus. Professors were calling me the YouTube guy. I was exhausted, but proud. And for a while, Linda seemed genuinely impressed. She'd say things like, "These are wonderful," or "You've got such a creative eye." I thought, maybe this will actually work out. Then one small thing changed everything. One afternoon, we were on break and I stepped outside for a smoke. Nothing major, just a short break after hours of editing. When I came back, Linda walked by, paused, and sniffed the air slightly. "Are you a smoker?" she asked, like I'd just admitted to committing a felony. I said, "Yeah, but only occasionally." Her smile vanished. She didn't say anything else at the moment, but the temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Later that day, I told a coworker, let's call her Jen, what happened. Jen facepalmed immediately. "Oh no, you didn't tell her that, did you?" "Why, what's the big deal?" Jen sighed. "Linda hates smokers. She's tried to get people fired over it before." "I'm serious." I laughed it off, thinking she was exaggerating. But I soon realized Jen was absolutely right. It started small. Little comments like, "You might want to keep some mints on hand. We can't have students complaining about cigarette smell." Then it turned into, "You were 5 minutes late this morning," even though I'd worked 4 hours of unpaid overtime the night before. She'd email me during lunch breaks, and if I didn't respond within 10 minutes, she'd call it unprofessional. She started nitpicking my work. Every single project I finished, she'd find something to criticize. The lighting feels off. This could be more engaging. Did you color correct this properly? Meanwhile, she was taking credit for my best videos in meetings with upper management. It was infuriating, but I kept my mouth shut. I thought, just get through this year, build your portfolio, then move on. I was too focused on doing my job well to get sucked into office politics. By month 5, I was physically and mentally drained. I was working 60-hour weeks, sacrificing weekends just to hit deadlines. But despite that, I was proud of what I'd accomplished. 30 finished videos. Each one polished, engaging, and professional. The university's YouTube page had never seen numbers like this. Views were up, engagement was up, everything looked great. So when I got an unexpected email saying, "Please report to the director's office at 2 p.m., I figured maybe they were acknowledging my work. Maybe, finally, someone noticed how hard I'd been hustling. But when I walked in, my stomach dropped. Linda was already sitting there across from the director, with that fake, disappointed look plastered across her face. And that's when I knew this wasn't a meeting. It was an ambush. The moment I sat down, I knew something was wrong. The director wouldn't even look me in the eye. Linda, on the other hand, had that smug, "I finally got him" smile. The kind you only see from people who think they've already won. The director cleared her throat. "Thank you for coming in. I'll get straight to the point," she said. "We've been reviewing the progress of our video project, and we're disappointed." My chest tightened. "Disappointed?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She flipped through a few papers. "According to your KPI, you were supposed to produce 85 videos within a year. We're halfway through, and you've only completed 30. Linda folded her hands dramatically and sighed. "It's been really difficult working with him," she said. "He's constantly behind schedule, and sometimes even unavailable during work hours." I felt my blood start to boil. Unavailable? I had been working overtime every single day. I opened my mouth to defend myself. "I've been putting in over 60 hours a week," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Every video I've made has performed better than anything this university's ever uploaded. I'm one person doing a full production team's job. Scripting, filming, editing, everything. I even use my own equipment because the university's gear can't handle the workload. I've given everything to this project." The director didn't even flinch. She just said, "That may be true, but the KPI is still 85 videos in a year. We need consistency." And just like that, 5 months of work, stress, and overtime meant nothing. Linda leaned back in her chair and smiled faintly. "Don't worry," she said sweetly. "We'll find a professional production house to finish what he couldn't." The director nodded in agreement. "We'll take it from here. Thank you for your time. We'll process your final paycheck soon." I just sat there for a moment, stunned. It felt like the floor had dropped from under me. Then I noticed it. The director's expression when Linda said professional production house. She looked uncertain, almost hesitant. That tiny flicker of hesitation sparked something in me. It wasn't much, but it was enough to light a fire. As I packed up my things later that day, I thought about everything I'd done for that department. All the hours, all the projects, all the ideas. I had built their entire content foundation, alone. And now, Linda was going to hand it off to someone else and take credit for saving the day. But then I remembered something. The production house database. One of my responsibilities as the content creator was to maintain a list of local production studios, just in case we needed outside help for larger shoots. I had built that list from scratch. Linda didn't have any industry contacts, none. If they were going to outsource the work, they'd have to use my list. That's when the idea hit me, quiet, clean, and cold. I sat there in my apartment that night staring at my laptop, heart pounding. I wasn't thinking about revenge yet. Not consciously. But deep down, something inside me wanted justice. Not just for being fired, but for being treated like I was disposable. I opened the database and started making a few adjustments. I changed all the contact numbers and emails for the production houses. Except one. That one belonged to a studio where a good friend of mine worked. A small-time production company trying to make a name for themselves. My friend Ethan was a junior director there. Smart, talented, ambitious, and just waiting for his big break. I gave him a call. "Yo, Ethan," I said. "You sitting down?" He laughed. "Should I be worried?" "Not worried," I said, "just ready for a big opportunity." I told him everything. How I got fired. How Linda planned to outsource the rest of the videos. How she'd probably use my contact list. Then I laid it out for him. "When they reach out, your studio will be the only one that works. You'll get the contract, and I'll make sure you know exactly how to pitch it." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Wait, are you serious? That's 6 months of work minimum. That's huge money." I nodded. "I know. You land this and your studio will go from small time to big time overnight." Ethan hesitated. "What do you want in return?" I smiled. "Just a standard finder's fee." 15%. He laughed in disbelief. "Dude, you're insane, Ike, but I love it." He put me on the phone with his general manager that same night. I walked them both through the plan step by step. What to say in the pitch. What kind of presentation would impress the university. Even how to appeal to Linda's ego. The next morning, they submitted their proposal. And within 2 days, Linda called them in for a meeting. I wasn't there in person, obviously, but Ethan told me later that it was almost too easy. Linda had clearly been scrambling. She needed to find someone fast to cover the 55 remaining videos before the year ended. Ethan's team walked in with a sleek presentation, one that I had basically ghostwritten, showcasing exactly what the university wanted to see. Familiar tone, consistent visual style, and the kind of content that matched the previous videos. Because of course I had designed all of it. When the director asked, "How do you know so much about our content?" Ethan's manager smiled and said, "We've been following your work for a while. We really admire the creative direction. Hook, line, sinker." They got the contract on the spot. A 6-figure deal for 6 months of production work. A week later, Ethan texted me. "Dude, we're in. Contract signed." "You're a genius." I grinned. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was just satisfied. Within days, money started flowing. They produced high-quality videos every 2 or 3 days. Exactly the kind of pace only a full studio could pull off. Meanwhile, my cut, 15%, came through quietly, no questions asked. By the end of the project, I had earned the equivalent of 15 months of my old salary. That's right. They fired me for being too slow, and I ended up making more money than I ever could have if I'd stayed. I booked a ticket to Bali, took my first real vacation in years, and finally started studying for film school. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. But karma wasn't done yet, not even close. Because while I was lying on a beach halfway across the world, Linda's perfect little plan was about to go up in flames. A few weeks into my vacation, I'd almost forgotten about the whole thing. Bali was everything I needed: quiet beaches, warm sun, and the kind of peace that makes you forget how messy life can get. I was lying in a hammock watching the ocean when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jen, the same coworker who'd warned me that Linda hated smokers. She wrote, "You are not going to believe what just happened." I sat up immediately. "What's going on?" I texted back. A few seconds later, my phone rang. I picked up and Jen's voice was practically shaking. Part disbelief, part laughter. "Linda's been fired," she said. I froze. "What, you're serious?" "Oh, I'm dead serious," Jen said. "The chancellor himself called her into a meeting this morning and tore her apart in front of half the department. Apparently, after I left, The director and Linda bragged about how they'd found a professional studio to complete my work, and at first everything looked perfect. Videos were coming in fast, polished, high quality. The director was impressed. The chancellor, even more so. He loved the content. But then came the financial audit. The project had been given a budget equal to about a year and a half of my salary. That was roughly $40,000 for the entire year's content creation. Linda's professional production house. They billed over 10 times that amount, more than $400,000. She'd approved every invoice herself, without ever consulting the director or getting financial clearance from upper management. She was desperate to prove she could deliver results after firing me. And in her arrogance, she authorized massive payments thinking no one would notice. When the chancellor saw the numbers, he lost it. She had blown through the yearly marketing budget for the entire university system. The director tried to defend her at first, but once they realized Linda had signed off on everything alone, the director shifted the blame fast. Linda was suspended immediately pending investigation. A week later, she was gone. No job, no references, no sympathy. Jen told me the university had been scrambling to clean up the mess. The director received a formal reprimand from the chancellor and was quietly reassigned to a different department, a desk job, far from anything creative or public-facing. As for the content project, well, ironically, the videos produced by Ethan's studio were so good that the university still decided to use them. The only thing they changed was the leadership. And guess whose name they quietly removed from all internal credits? Linda's. It was poetic. She had wanted recognition so badly. She ended up erased completely. Meanwhile, Ethan's production company exploded in popularity. They landed more university contracts, corporate clients, and even a few small documentary projects. Within a year, Ethan was promoted to full director. He told me later, "Dude, that job changed my entire career. I owe you big time." I laughed and told him, "Just don't hire any managers named Linda." Looking back now, it's funny how things work out. When I was sitting in that director's office months earlier, humiliated and defeated, I thought my career was over. But that firing ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop undervaluing myself, to realize that sometimes walking away or getting pushed away isn't a loss. It's an invitation to start something better. And Linda? She got exactly what she gave, multiplied tenfold. Her obsession with control and image cost her everything. She underestimated the very person who built the foundation of her project. She thought she could replace me like a piece of broken equipment, and ended up burning down her own career. There's a certain beauty in poetic justice, not the kind that comes from anger or revenge for revenge's sake, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the truth has a way of finding balance, even when you don't force it. If there's one thing I learned from all of this, it's this. Never let someone convince you that your value depends on their approval. People like Linda thrive on control, on making others feel small. But when you do your best with integrity, the universe has a funny way of rewarding you, even if it takes a little detour to get there. Sometimes karma doesn't come fast, but when it does, it hits with precision. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that prove karma never forgets. Until next time, remember, stay kind, stay smart. And if someone tries to play you, play smarter.